The North Sea, pre-dawn, June 6, 1944. Huddled inside specialized tanks, crews of the 79th Armored Division faced a terrifying reality that had nothing to do with German bullets: the merciless English Channel. A vital component of the invasion, the Sherman DD duplex drive tanks, were launched miles offshore, their buoyancy reliant on fragile canvas screens. That morning, a churning, deadly swell ripped those screens to shreds. Within minutes, dozens of these unconventional 30-ton machines, designed to swim, were swallowed by the abyss, taking their crews with them. It was a terrifying, gut-wrenching failure that proved one critical, overarching principle: the invasion of Normandy would not be won by simple courage or brute force, but by desperate, bizarre, and brilliant engineering specialization. The Allied High Command knew the Atlantic Wall was designed to crush any conventional landing. Standard infantry and standard armor would be stopped cold by anti-tank ditches, vast minefields, concrete bunkers, pillboxes, and thick barbed wire. A direct assault meant catastrophic casualties, just like the infamous disaster at Dieppe. A new military doctrine was required, one that treated terrain and fixed defenses not as obstacles to be fought through, but as problems to be solved. This is the astonishing, almost unbelievable story of Hobart's Funnies. Named after the unconventional, visionary commander Major General Percy Hobart, this collection of heavily modified tanks, the flame-spitting Crocodiles, the bridge-laying AVREs, the road-laying Bobbins, and the terrifying mine-flailing Crabs formed a unique, experimental army. They were the punchline of a joke, a funny, that German defenders quickly stopped laughing at when faced with tanks that laid their own roads and destroyed fortifications with giant, flying dustbins of high explosives. Their mission was simple: to clear the path for the rest of the world to follow. If you enjoy exploring the hidden engineering marvels and the true cost of military innovation that paved the road to victory in World War II, please click subscribe to support more untold stories. The core strategic challenge facing the Allied High Command on the eve of June 6, 1944, was the crisis: why standard tanks were doomed at D-Day. The German Atlantic Wall was not merely a line of defenses. It was a layered, integrated system of concrete, steel, and explosives stretching for thousands of miles. The beaches were laced with obstacles: steel hedgehogs, mined wooden stakes, and deep anti-tank ditches, all designed to trap standard armor and leave infantry exposed. Planners understood that a conventional tank, such as the American Sherman, relying solely on its gun, would be quickly immobilized, turning the precious beachhead into a killing field. This sheer density of defenses meant that sending conventional armor against the wall was widely considered military suicide. This terrifying prospect was not theoretical, it was based on the harsh reality of the Dieppe disaster, lessons written in blood and mud in 1942. During the disastrous Operation Jubilee, Allied tanks were launched onto the shingle beaches only to be immediately bogged down, unable to climb the seawalls or cross the shingle bank. Immobilized and helpless, the tanks became easy targets, leading to devastating casualties. This single day's failure convinced Winston Churchill and the invasion planners that Operation Overlord was impossible without a radical, technological revolution, a lesson written in the blood of Canadian and British forces who perished on the beaches. The man chosen to lead this revolution was Percy Hobart, the outcast general who dared to be different. Hobart was an eccentric and visionary general whose progressive ideas about rapid, mobile tank warfare were decades ahead of his time. His unconventional thinking, stressing specialization and tactical flexibility, put him at odds with the conservative military establishment of the 1930s. His reward? He was forced into early retirement in 1939. The man chosen to save D-Day was, just years prior, literally stacking shelves in a local department store, deemed too radical for the army he loved. The stakes were too high for personal grudges. Recognizing his genius, the government executed Churchill's direct order, rescuing Hobart to lead the Funnies. Prime Minister Churchill, along with military historian Basil Liddell Hart, personally intervened, overriding all objections from the entrenched military leaders. In 1943, Hobart was pulled back from civilian life and given a mission of absolute secrecy and limitless resources, to design the bizarre vehicles necessary to break the Atlantic Wall. Churchill essentially bet the success of the entire invasion on a retired, disgraced general whom the rest of the army wanted gone. Hobart immediately established the 79th Armored Division. An army of engineers is formed. This division was not trained for conventional tank combat. It was a specialized formation focused entirely on engineering tasks. Their goal was to transform fixed obstacles into manageable problems, clearing the path for the follow-on infantry and armored divisions. This unit was cloaked in heavy secrecy, and the tanks themselves were dubbed Funnies because of their absurd, unconventional appearance. This division was designed not to fight enemy tanks, but to fight the ground and the fortifications, marking a complete, essential shift in armored doctrine. The foundation for the most versatile and crucial of the Funnies was the British Churchill tank. While often mocked for its relatively low speed, the Churchill chassis provided exactly what Major General Hobart needed. Heavy armor to absorb hits on the beaches, an incredibly roomy interior that allowed engineers to operate, and robust cross-country performance necessary to navigate soft sand and deep shell craters. The Churchill, despite its sluggish reputation, was the perfect heavy-duty utility vehicle, chosen precisely because its reliability and stability made it the ideal engineer's toolbox, a stable platform upon which the destiny of the invasion would rest. This reliable platform gave rise to the Armored Vehicle Royal Engineers, AVRE, the central workhorse of the 79th Division. The AVRE was created not to engage enemy tanks, but to deliver close support engineering solutions directly to the firing line. Its primary objective was to quickly blast open gaps in fortifications and obstacle systems that infantry and standard tanks could not breach. The AVRE truly represented a complete doctrinal shift. It was the first vehicle in history specifically designed to fight the ground and the fortifications, making it indispensable in the fight against the Atlantic Wall. To fulfill its primary mission, the AVRE was equipped with the gargantuan 290mm petard mortar, earning it the grim nickname, the Flying Dustbin. The petard fired a massive, high-explosive charge designed with one purpose: to shatter concrete at point-blank range. Its power against German concrete pillboxes was unmatched. No conventional tank gun could compete. However, this sheer destructive power came at a terrifying cost. The petard was muzzle-loaded, meaning the crew had to manually ram the shell into the barrel from the outside. This leads us to the heart-stopping challenge of loading the petard under fire. The petard's unique design required the engineer to poke his head and torso out of the cupola, exposing himself completely to machine gun and sniper fire on the beach. This manual reload sequence meant the tank was virtually defenseless for a critical 30-second window after every shot. This period of extreme vulnerability was the terrifying trade-off for the AVRE's bunker-busting power, demanding exceptional skill, nerves of steel, and pure, raw courage from the engineer operating the weapon. Ultimately, the power of the AVRE lay beyond the mortar itself. The petard could be quickly removed, transforming the Churchill into a universal load-carrying platform. This incredible versatility meant the same chassis could carry heavy demolition charges, bridge sections, or ditch-filling fascines. This was the true Swiss Army knife of the beachhead, a vehicle capable of switching missions, from blasting a bunker to filling a ditch, in minutes, not hours, ensuring that the relentless pace of the assault never faltered. The most immediate challenge facing the landing forces was not German firepower, but the treacherous terrain, soft beaches, deep anti-tank ditches, and mine-laden craters. The solution was the fascine carrier, bridging trenches with logs. The fascine was a massive bundle of wooden poles and brushwood, often weighing over a ton, carried directly on the front of the AVRE. When the tank reached a wide trench or crater, the crew would simply unlatch the chains, dropping the huge bundle into the gap. This simple, ancient technology instantly created a solid, drivable crossing point for the following armor and infantry, maintaining the momentum of the advance where standard tanks would have been instantly stalled. However, filling ditches was only one part of the problem. To clear massive obstacles and fortified earthworks, the AVRE became the demolition expert, the goat and petard charges. This variant carried specialized, high-capacity demolition charges, often mounted on long poles or brackets, designed to destroy concrete walls, seawalls, or mine-laid obstacles from a safe distance. The explosive charge was typically referred to as a goat charge. The AVRE was essentially a heavily armored demolition vehicle, used to surgically blast open the strongest points of the Atlantic Wall. Soft sand and shingle on the landing beaches were notorious for trapping heavy vehicles, a major lesson learned at Dieppe. Hobart's answer was the bobbin tank, laying the road as you drive. This modification featured a massive roll of reinforced canvas matting carried on the front of a Churchill chassis. As the tank drove ashore, the bobbin would unroll a 10-foot wide path of matting over the soft ground. This created an instant, stable roadway, preventing subsequent tanks from sinking into the shingle and ensuring the crucial rapid movement of armor from the beach to the safety of the firm inland ground. While the bobbin addressed soft ground, the challenge of crossing wide, concrete fortifications required a different solution. This led to the SBG assault bridge, the mobile tank ramp. The small box girder, SBG, was a prefabricated, 30-foot-long bridge section carried and launched by the AVRE. The tank would drive up to an obstacle, deploy the bridge in minutes, and detach it. The AVRE itself would then become the abutment, a heavy, armored ramp that other tanks could drive across. This provided the ability to quickly bypass deep anti-tank ditches or even small river crossings immediately after landing. The ability to switch roles was paramount. Every AVRE was a modular weapon system, interchangeability of funnies. Hobart's fundamental principle was not just specialization, but modularity. The Churchill chassis was engineered so that the mountings for the fascine, the bobbin, the SBG, and other attachments were standardized. This meant that a tank damaged in one role could quickly be fitted with the equipment of another, or converted back to a standard AVRE with minimal downtime. This rapid interchangeability ensured the 79th Division maintained operational readiness under the chaos and pressure of the invasion. While the AVRE cleared physical obstructions, the vast German minefields required a dedicated, terrifying solution. This was the role of the Sherman crab, the mine-flail that cleared the way. Based on the robust American Sherman tank, the crab featured a massive, rotating steel cylinder mounted on the front. To this cylinder were attached heavy steel chains, or flails, tipped with lead balls. The drum would spin at over 140 revolutions per minute, violently thrashing the ground. The goal was not to gently sweep, but to violently beat the ground, detonating buried landmines harmlessly ahead of the tank. The crab was a monumental improvement over earlier mine-clearing designs, providing precision flailing, clearing mines and barbed wire. Its unique feature was the ability to control the height and angle of the flail drum. This allowed it to effectively clear both buried anti-personnel and anti-tank mines, as well as shred massive quantities of dense barbed wire, a crippling obstacle for infantry. The noise of the flail, an industrial, rhythmic roar, was deafening and terrifying, serving as both a shield for the advancing troops and a warning to the German defenders. Another key specialist was the Churchill Crocodile, the terrifying flame tank. Replacing the hull-mounted machine gun of the Churchill, the Crocodile featured a massive flamethrower projector. This was not a short-range infantry weapon. The Crocodile could project a continuous stream of burning fuel up to 120 yards, over 100 meters. This extreme range meant the tank could clear fortifications and trenches from a safe distance, often forcing a surrender before the infantry even engaged. The logistical genius of the Crocodile lay in its fuel supply, the armored trailer dilemma. The flamethrower's immense appetite for fuel was solved by an ingenious, yet awkward, solution: an armored towed trailer carrying 400 gallons, 1,800 liters, of fuel. This trailer was connected to the tank by a heavy armored pipe. While the trailer provided the essential endurance for the weapon, it presented a huge tactical vulnerability. If damaged or hit, the trailer could turn into a massive fireball, forcing the crew to utilize the unique, explosive bolt designed to instantly sever the tow connection. The sheer destructive power of the flamethrower made the Crocodile a powerful psychological weapon, forcing immediate surrender. German troops, dug into bunkers or trenches, often resisted standard shelling and small arms fire, but the sight of the creeping, fire-spitting Churchill advancing towards them often resulted in immediate, often mass, surrender. It was a machine that didn't just destroy fortifications. It broke the will of the soldiers inside them, proving that psychological impact was as important as explosive payload in armored warfare. The most ambitious and controversial of all the Funnies was the Sherman DD, the swimming tank. DD stands for duplex drive, referring to the system that allowed the tank to power both its tracks on land and a propeller in the water. The tank was surrounded by a large, foldable canvas flotation screen, which, when inflated, provided just enough buoyancy to keep the 30-ton vehicle afloat. This was the true gamble of D-Day, launching heavy armor miles offshore to surprise the German defenses at first light. The DD tank was not without its catastrophic vulnerabilities. The earlier hook revealed the fate of many DDs on Omaha Beach, leading us to the DD Catastrophe, Omaha's deadly swell. On the American beaches, particularly Omaha, adverse weather, rough seas, and high swells overwhelmed the fragile canvas screens. The flotation system was simply not designed for such heavy surf. Tragically, dozens of DD tanks sank almost immediately upon deployment, taking most of their two-man crews with them, a devastating logistical and human loss for the initial assault wave. In stark contrast, the British utilized the DD tanks effectively, making the British success, deploying the DDs from shore. On Gold, Juno, and Sword beaches, the DD tanks were launched much closer to the shore, or in some cases, were driven straight onto the beach without being deployed in the rough sea. This careful, tactical deployment, along with slightly calmer waters, resulted in significantly higher survival rate. This success proved that the DD design was fundamentally sound, but its deployment doctrine required perfect conditions and extreme caution. Once the vehicles were ashore, the chaotic environment of the beach, under fire and littered with debris and disabled tanks, required a dedicated recovery specialist. This was the task of the BARV, the Beach Armored Recovery Vehicle. The BARV was a highly modified Sherman or Churchill tank with its turret replaced by a high, sturdy superstructure and a robust winch system. Its sole purpose was to wade into the surf and drag disabled tanks, trucks, and landing craft out of the path of the relentless follow-on waves, often operating completely submerged in water. The BARV crews mastered a skill known as wading warriors, the BARV's critical role in traffic flow. If a landing craft was disabled or a tank was mired in the sand, the BARV was the only vehicle that could reach it. It used its immense weight and winch to push or pull obstacles, maintaining a clear path for the massive flow of logistics following the assault. Without the BARV to constantly clear the deadly bottleneck of the beach, the entire invasion could have ground to a halt. The Funnies were not universally accepted, leading to a major strategic divergence captured in the doctrinal split, the U.S. rejection of the Funnies. While the British fully integrated Hobart's creations into their assault on Gold, Juno, and Sword beaches, the American command, specifically Generals Omar Bradley and Dwight D. Eisenhower, expressed deep skepticism. They viewed the specialized nature of the Funnies as an unnecessary complication to mass-produced armor and logistics. This single decision, rejecting most of the Funnies, would have catastrophic consequences for the American landings. The stark difference in approach became brutally apparent in success by specialization, the Commonwealth beaches. On the British and Canadian sectors, the Funnies proved their worth instantly. AVREs blasted gaps in concrete, crabs cleared wide lanes through minefields, and bobbins laid roads over soft sand, all while under fire. The result was a significantly lower casualty rate for the initial waves and a rapid, successful push off the beaches, proving that specialized engineering was faster and safer than sheer courage. Tragically, the American decision played out on the price of convention: failure at Omaha Beach. The Americans chose to rely primarily on standard Sherman tanks and courageous infantry. Without the immediate, specialized assistance of the crabs to clear mines or the AVREs to breach the seawall, their advance stalled almost immediately. The lack of Funnies contributed significantly to the chaos and the appalling casualty figures that earned Omaha its grim nickname, Bloody Omaha. This stark comparison served as a gruesome, real-time validation of Hobart's genius. The psychological impact of the tanks was often as decisive as their firepower, seen in the first flamethrower on the beaches, Crocodile's terror. The sight and sound of the Churchill Crocodile, spitting a torrent of fire 100 meters across the sand, often paralyzed German defenders. While not used in vast numbers initially, the threat of being incinerated inside a bunker frequently led to the immediate surrender of fortified positions. The sheer psychological dominance exerted by the Crocodile often cleared a path faster than traditional artillery. By the end of D-Day, the 79th Armored Division had firmly established the Hobart legacy, paving the way for victory. Their specialized tasks were crucial not only for the initial landings but also for the critical phase of breaking out of the Normandy bridgehead. The Funnies cleared roads, laid temporary bridges across rivers, and destroyed obstacles in the hedgerows. The Funnies transformed an amphibious invasion, historically the deadliest maneuver in war, into a manageable engineering problem. The service of the 79th Armored Division did not end on the Normandy beaches. Their specialized work became critical during the push inland, highlighted by Beyond the Beaches, the Funnies in the Battle of the Scheldt. After breaking out of the Normandy perimeter, the Allies faced the heavily fortified ports and water obstacles of the Netherlands. Here, the AVRE and Crocodile tanks proved vital in the grueling task of clearing German defenses from the flooded and difficult terrain. This phase solidified their reputation. They were not just D-Day tools, but essential equipment for the entire European campaign. While the DD, Crab, and AVRE are famous, many other brilliant, if lesser known, machines were developed under Hobart's command. One such vehicle was the Canal Crossing Specialist, the Armored Ramp Carrier, ARC. The ARC was an AVRE with its turret completely removed and replaced by a folding ramp system. When it reached a ditch or canal, the tank would simply drive into the gap and deploy its ramps, effectively becoming a temporary, fully armored bridge itself. Other tanks could then drive directly over the ARC and its ramp. Another modification aimed to solve the constant problem of mobility on varied terrain, the carpet layer, bridging soft ground with the scissors bridge. While the bobbin laid canvas, other Funnies were designed to deploy small, prefabricated bridges, such as the scissors assault bridge. This was a short, two-piece bridge folded over the top of a Churchill chassis and deployed hydraulically. This allowed quick crossings of narrow anti-tank ditches or bomb craters, providing rapid tactical mobility for advancing columns. The sheer volume of work and the constant threat of being immobilized demanded a different kind of recovery vehicle than the BARV. This was the role of the bull's horn plow, the plowshare of the tank corps. This device, fitted to the front of a tank, did not detonate mines like the Crab. Instead, it used heavy blades shaped like a bull's horns to excavate and push soil, shoving mines and obstacles to the side without triggering them. This was an alternative, less violent method of clearing a safe path, often used for clearing established roadways. The enduring success of these modifications immediately led to the adoption of these concepts by other nations, signifying the American adoption, Lessons learned too late. Although the U.S. Army initially rejected most of the Funnies for the Normandy landings, the overwhelming success seen on the British and Canadian sectors changed their minds. By late 1944 and 1945, the Americans were using the Crocodile flamethrower and developing their own specialized mine-clearing and engineering vehicles, confirming that Hobart's unorthodox vision was, in fact, the blueprint for modern combat engineering. The story of the Funnies is ultimately one of enduring influence, captured in the enduring legacy, the blueprint for modern CEV. The principles pioneered by the 79th Armored Division, using heavy armor as a modular platform for specialized engineering tasks, did not vanish with the war. The AVRE is considered the direct ancestor of almost every combat engineer vehicle, CEV, and specialized armored recovery vehicle used by modern militaries worldwide. The concept of the dedicated, obstacle buster tank is Hobart's true gift to warfare. The success of the Funnies was not just about the hardware, it was about the principles behind their design. This is reflected in the philosophy of specialization versus versatility. Hobart understood that a single, multi-role tank would be mediocre at everything. Instead, he championed an arsenal of single-role machines that were supremely good at one specific task, enabling the overall force to adapt to any challenge the battlefield threw at them. This foundational doctrine continues to shape how modern armies approach complex combined arms operations. While the story is often told through the lens of generals and tanks, the true heroes were the men who crewed them. This is the theme of the human cost. The bravery of the 79th Division. The crews of the AVREs, the DDs, and the Crabs faced dangers far beyond those of standard tank crews, often operating exposed, like the petard loader, or submerged like the BARV crews. Their willingness to operate bizarre, vulnerable, and often volatile machines under intense fire is the ultimate testament to the effectiveness of Hobart's vision. By the time the 79th Armored Division was disbanded in 1945, their final contribution was staggering. The final tally, counting the Funnies' impact. The division operated nearly 7,000 specialized armored vehicles across the Western Front, from D-Day to the Elbe River. Their success directly saved thousands of lives, prevented critical delays, and cemented the Allied victory in Western Europe. It proved that military imagination, backed by engineering might, was the most powerful weapon in the Allied arsenal. Ultimately, the Funnies achieved a status beyond mere military hardware, explored in A Funny No More, the cultural impact and recognition. Initially ridiculed, they became a source of pride for the troops who relied on them, often seen as a necessary part of the eccentric British approach to the war. The moniker Funnies eventually lost its derisive edge, becoming a term of endearment for the tanks that proved to be anything but a joke. Their story serves as a permanent reminder that innovation often comes in the strangest packages.